Добрий
Good afternoon, my name is Ola Atamanova, and Ukraine Media Center Ukraine Forum continues its operation today. I want to thank everybody who joins us. It's day 538 of the full-scale invasion of our homeland by Russian occupiers, and now we will be talking about the situation in Kherson region. Joining us online is Oleksandr Tolokonnikov, spokesman of the Kherson region military administration. Good afternoon, Mr. Oleksandr. Good afternoon, glory to Ukraine, glory to the heroes, Mr. Oleksandr. This morning, the Russians inflicted another massive strike, and Kherson region was no exception to those regions that suffered as a result of that strike. So what are the consequences of the strike, and what is the situation in Kherson region generally, given it's under constant fire of the occupiers? Well, that's true. Just within yesterday, the deoccupied territory of Kherson region was shelled 71 times. More than 300 projectiles were launched by artillery, tanks, mortars, aviation, UAVs. 9 people were injured as a result of Russian aggression, and today we've got a sad news about a man who was injured today. A security guard has died today, being heavily injured in his stomach, so he died in a hospital. And yesterday 5 people were injured in Kherson itself, 3 of them during the night and 2 more in the evening. Also, there were 2 people from Poniatowska community and Belozerska community, where Russians were shelling the educational institution. The educational institution was damaged, and a security guard was injured who was staying inside. So 9 people in total were injured yesterday, and one of those 9 unfortunately died in a hospital. Today Russians continue shelling the areas along the liberated shore riverbank, the west bank of Dnieper. One woman was concussed. Around 11 o'clock there were bombs dropped by aviation in a number of districts of Kherson region. There are destructions, but we don't have any information about the people injured, fortunately. Mr. Oleksandr, talking about the condition of the critical infrastructure and humanitarian situation in the region in general, what it is. Well, talking about critical infrastructure, just yesterday during the meeting of the Defense and Security Council, there was a proposal to physically protect 73 facilities of critical infrastructure, gas supply, power supply, and water supply systems, which needs to be protected. Talking about other types of infrastructure, the works on restoration of water, gas, and power supply are underway. 187 settlements are connected to the grid, to the power grid right now. There are 228 such settlements in the west bank of Crimea. Unfortunately, there is no possibility to reconnect 41 settlements more, because they are under constant fire of the enemy. The energy technicians cannot get there, and those energy technicians were attempting to do those reconnection or repair works on the grid, but unfortunately they ended up under fire too. And there are 10 more settlements where there is no single citizen left, and that there is no necessity to get those settlements reconnected to power supply. About the water, now the wells are being drilled in those settlements that were deprived of water as a result of detonation of Kakhovka Dam. Probably the level of water would fall in the old wells. Now there are restoration works are underway in the water supply network. The new waterways are about to be established, and they will be better than the old ones. That's 100% guarantee. But there are two more settlements where the water supply is unavailable. In one settlement there are 8 people left, and in another one there are 40 people left, and it's more logical to deliver the water by tanks there. There are also generators working in those settlements which are located along the bank of Dnipro, so people are supplied with the water according to the schedule. Talking about gas supply, Kherson gas is working on repairing of the networks. Recently we reestablished the gas supply to Mirolubivka and to the districts of Ostriv and Korabelny in the city of Kherson, where it was previously disconnected due to flooding. There are works underway on reestablishing the power supply, but if the situation is clear with the transformers which are located on the surface, they only are getting dried and recommissioned. So the power grid in the Ostrov itself is underwater, and in those wells we don't know whether there is already access to the power lines. The level of water is still high, and all the lines are underwater. They are drowned currently. So we expect the water to fall down the lowest possible so that the power technicians could check those lines. So we expect for the water to subside. All our attempts of pumping water just failed because the water is getting back to its level. So we did that work in vain. Currently the supplier cannot pump enough water to the network. The consumers are not even enough to get the necessary amount of water pumped into the system, but the specialists continue working. They continue clearing the debris after the flooding, and at least 1,300 tons of riverbed sediment, trash and other stuff were disposed of recently. Mr. Oleksandr, what is the number of people currently staying in Kherson region? Well, according to our calculations now, there are 72,000 people staying in Kherson and 110,000 more all across the region. And before the beginning of the full-scale invasion, what was that figure? Only in Kherson there were 320,000 residents, and I think that the population of the region was about 600,000 people. Well, now it's only 25% of the population staying here. So are you preparing to the new heating season? Is it possible given the conditions, and what's your vision of the beginning of the winter period? Or you think that people should better leave the area for that period? Well, first of all, we see it because the security situation doesn't allow some of them to do so, but those steps taken by the military administration and the utility services, because we understand first of all that there was a problem with gas supply. We should reestablish it as soon as possible in those settlements where it existed before, because it means the heating. Also, we are considering the program. You know, the people submit their applications for getting support from the government in case they don't have gas supplies. The thermal power plants are working on examination of their networks, so as long as one single person remains here in Kherson, just like President of Ukraine said when he arrived at Kherson, we should do everything we can to make sure that those people receive all basic utility services, including water, heat, and power supply. So the preparation to the heating season in Kherson is no different from the peacetime, but constant shelling, constant destruction of the networks, they create serious obstacles for us. I hope that we will be able to fulfill their bare works before winter. So the preparation is underway. The heat will be supplied to all the residential areas where it's possible. We have questions on the floor. Please, dear colleagues, good afternoon. Mr. Oleksandr, Valentina Rikel, Ukrinform. I will have two questions. What is the number of school-age children in the Kherson region for the time being? Were they able to recreate during this summer, and what are the plans for their school education during this curriculum year to come? Well, talking about children during this curriculum year, we expect to start the operation of 190 schools. Is the half of all the schools in Kherson region, and it's 8,500 children. It's twice as much as last year. They will be only studying online because unfortunately we cannot afford teaching children in schools, and only after we liberate the East Bank we will consider that format of education. So for the time being it's like that. Also, apart from the school learning, they will provide psychological support, mental health support. We will be preparing to the next phase when we liberate the East Bank, and we will be able to send our children back to schools. Now we have shelters planned in the schools. They are already constructed and outfitted according to the new standards to make sure that every school is equipped with the shelter, whether repaired or a structure located nearby, so that our standards are complied with. If I may, another question, probably what is going on with the building of the scientific library named after Gonchar? We know that it was damaged by an enemy shelling. It was also flooded by heavy rains. Does the municipality have enough resources to cover the building? Yes, we have enough resources, but the security situation prevents us to do so. You know, this building is in a location which can be directly shelled by the enemy, so we cannot put our utility service personnel and rescue services in danger. We could already have started. The war is there, but nobody can and nobody wants to do it. It's clear that nobody wants to send the people for death. There are material things, but you know, human lives are the most valuable things we have. Thank you very much for finding time to join our broadcast, dear colleagues. I'm reminding you, joining us was Oleksandr Tolokonnikov, the spokesperson of Kherson Regional Military Administration, and I traditionally want to thank our security and defense forces. Let's continue working for our victory. Our team is working on the schedule for tomorrow, so please stay tuned for our announcements, and glory to Ukraine.